Hello, my friends, and happy Mercury Cazimi Day. In case you don't know what a Cazimi is, it's basically the term for when a planet is meeting up with the heart of the sun, right? So it's sort of being superpowered, supercharged by the sun. And Mercury, according to astrology, is the planet of communication and messages. And so today, May 14th, 2026, is supposed to be a day for clarity. So, wherever you're at, I hope that you are gaining some clarity in matters that are important to you, whether that's your life's purpose, your relationships, your career goals, your family, whatever it is. I wish you all the helpful clarity in the world today. And before I dive into the topics of this episode, which I'm really glad that you're here listening to, because if you made it past the title, got over some of those stigmas about female parts, I'm really glad that you're here because I've got a lot of good stuff for you today. But before I get into that, I have to give a shout out to one of the figures who has been helping me out quite a bit via her app and her book and her podcast while I've been on this 8-month hiatus. Yes, I went back to the I'm Angry episode and checked and realized my count was off as I planned on. Excuse me one moment. Today is an episode that will be interrupted by my son because I have no choice but to record with him here. Remember, you can have that when I'm all done, okay?
But I want my chocolate.
Well, also, as you may have just heard, I have bribed him with chocolate to give me the space for recording. There's just some classics when it comes to parenting, right? And bribing is definitely still one of them. But, that's how humans function, right? Reward system. So back to Channy, though. Channy Nicholas. I did this 8-month hiatus. And during that, part of what I was doing was studying a lot of astrology. And she is fantastic. She's a very well-known astrologer. And I highly encourage you to purchase her book, You Were Born for This by Channy Nicholas, and to check out her website. She's got a fantastic app that I can't speak highly enough. It's helped me a lot. And there's a lot of stigmas around astrology too, right? Like people, because of pop culture, it's been sort of minimized and mocked sometimes, kind of by reducing it to your sun sign, meaning like the month that you were born in. And that's why people mock it, like, okay, well, we've got 12 months. There's going to be lots of people born, in each of those months. So it must be bullshit, right? Because come on. Well, it goes a lot deeper than that, and it's ancient wisdom. And if you look around the world, lots of different cultures and people groups have astrological connections. They have their own form of astrology. And because of something that's ancient like that, there's got to be some spiritual heart to it, and there absolutely is. And so just know that astrology is not just based on the month you were born. In fact, you have a whole astrological chart of where all the planets were when you were born and what that means for your life. And the way that I see that connection is, if you actually research the physical nature of human beings, you can find traces to us being connected to stardust, right? There's also the as above, so below belief system. Now, for me, I learned that from the Dakota people who live near me, that the concept of as above, so below, right? It's a deep concept, but part of it is what's in the sky is in the earth. It's sort of like the cycle of life. And so when you look at the human being's connection to the sky and to the stars, if you believe that we are born of stardust and that we have these physical bodies here on earth, that our souls chose these physical bodies here on earth, well, that's a pretty powerful connection. Human beings have been looking up to the sky, right, for answers and seeking beauty and connection basically since our existence. So there has to be a reason, right? There has to be a memory there. So I highly encourage you just to check out astrology. And Channy Nicholas does a really fantastic job of making it accessible. What's really cool too is that if you download her app, you can easily get access to your own birth chart for free by putting in your birthday, your birth year, your birth time, and your birth location. You can get all of that information, and she breaks it down in a really accessible way. I think there's like a premium version of her app for like $12 a month, which I also say is worth it. Now, I don't know her personally. I am certainly not being paid to give her a plug. I just highly believe in the work that she's doing and the passion behind it. And you can access her Week Ahead podcast for free. I think it's actually on some of the major podcast platforms, but for sure on her app as well. And so that being said, she's fantastic. And maybe one other thing, her wife is the CEO of this company, or I don't know for sure if she's the CEO, but she's some sort of founding member or like central figure in a company called Fearsome, and they're based in California, and they help victims of domestic violence. And so, man, have I fallen in love with Jenny Nicholas over the last few months. She's just amazing, and her values just really resonate with me. Her wife is one of those people that I mentioned in my previous episode about domestic violence who's doing fantastic work on the behalf of victims. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a link to Channy's website in the show notes, as well as a link to her wife's company in hopes that, you know, the wonderful work that they are doing will be spread, but also that those who maybe are in need of their help can find it, because I can't speak highly enough of how deeply my life has been enriched by Channy's work and how she's helped me study astrology. And again, astrology is really scholarship. It's a field of study. It's not a basic pop culture thing that you'll read in a magazine. Certainly it's been turned into that, but it's hard to understand, meaning like there's some depth, there's some wisdom, there's some math, there's some spirituality. And I say it's hard to understand as an encouragement to challenge yourself, to dive into it, because it is a very powerful form of spirituality. And I certainly have encountered much guidance from studying my own chart as well as the charts of others. And something that's interesting is I've shared charts with people who don't necessarily believe in astrology, yet they said, okay, yeah, sure, do a reading for me. And I shared what I found, and it was amazing how deeply it resonated with them. They were like, oh, yep, that hits, that's spot on, you know? So anyway, check it out. It can be a powerful form of guidance for you. But in the meantime, I'm here today to talk about pain and love and awkward encounters and how it can help us. And specifically, I'm going to cover some of my experiences with healing my own body and seeking help to heal my own body in places that are often ignored and demeaned and made fun of, and sometimes just people feel so awkward talking about it, which I don't know why, and so they just don't. And so I'm going to talk about it today, but I'm also going to talk about it in a way that kind of relates to our collective pain and our collective tendencies when it comes to pain and what we can learn from by facing it, by walking through it. And let me tell you, my friends, just right off the bat, when we face our pain, when we actually have the courage to move through it, the person we become on the other side is incredibly powerful and purposed. It can give us some clear direction about what we want to do next. So let me just begin. Now, when it comes to pain, at least in the United States, it's no secret, right, that like we're one of the highest, like biggest countries in the world when it comes to seeking pills to alleviate our pain. Like I think there's, again, you can look it up somewhere, but people in the United States, I think, take more prescription medications than almost anybody else, right? And that's often what the medical system encourages us to do. There are lots of doctors who want to just kind of push pills. And, you know, I would guess, based on, not with every doctor, right? Because there's a lot of wonderful clinicians out there, but I would guess it also has something to do with the pharmaceutical industry, right? A lot of people can profit off of us buying pills and creating pills. And so the pharmaceutical industry is also, specifically big pharma, something I have a lot of issues with, particularly related to the cost of insulin and how that, you know, which is very near and dear to my heart with my oldest daughter being a type 1 diabetic. And so on that note, I'm also going to give another shout out to Nicole Smith Holt and the fantastic work that she has done in order to make medications accessible. There's a documentary associated with her called Pay or Die, and because she lost her son to type 1 diabetes because he couldn't afford his insulin. So anyway, shout out to her. But back to the whole pain thing, right? Like the US is known for pushing pills, for pushing medication. And one common response that we have to our pain in the United States, be it emotional or physical, is to numb it, right? A common response that we have to pain is to numb it. And I bring this up not to shame anybody for numbing it, because that's what we're taught to do, and oftentimes what we're forced to do. Because if you look at my last episode about working so much and healing the home, we are often treated like products, right? Here in the US, we're often treated for how hard we can work. And so it's very difficult sometimes to find time to deal with our pain, because we're pushed into work so much and we're pushed into busyness so much. And so if you are numbing your pain, I'm not blaming you. There's multiple forces at work when it comes to numbness. It's a cultural phenomenon to numb ourselves to pain, partly because we feel like we have to get things done, and partly because, well, it hurts, right? It's human nature to want to avoid things. And there's lots of distractions, especially in this day and age with the surgence of scrolling and social media and just numbing options. There's lots of distractions that make it very easy for us to numb our pain. So one problem with pain in this culture is that we are conditioned to numb it. A big reason why we numb it as well is because of the meaning assigned to it, right? If we're in pain because of a mistake that we made, a bad relationship we had, a financial loss, anything we're ashamed of, well, there's been meaning attached to that. Judgments from others that have been attached to that. So we avoid it. The other thing, and this relates to the female portion that I'm going to get into when it comes to pain, is that we are conditioned to ignore it because it's just something we get used to living with. This is especially true when it comes to pain that women experience, specifically with our lady parts, right? When it comes to matters of childbirth or menstrual cycles, or in my case, having some pelvic floor problems, which means like the muscles kind of like inside the vagina are either weak or too tight, or something is going on with those muscles, and it's causing us pain. It's causing other issues, and we're conditioned to ignore it because female pain is often incredibly minimized, partly because we are so good at living with it, partly because we have such a high pain tolerance, despite some of the stereotypes that are out there about women and their pain tolerance. We actually have an incredible pain tolerance, but we're also conditioned to believe that our pain doesn't matter, that it's just a part of being a woman. And if this, wasn't true, let me just tell you, men, and I know this from some personal experience, not myself, but people who I know, men, when they get vasectomies, are often offered pain medication following that surgery, like actual prescription pain medication. Whereas women, and this I know from direct experience of birthing 4 children, are just told, they're given a cycle of ibuprofen and Tylenol. Like there's this regimen of, okay, you can take Tylenol at this time and ibuprofen at this time. Women are given over-the-counter pain medication following childbirth, which is astounding to me. It's kind of like, here you go, men have this stronger medication. Women, childbirth is just a part of what you have to do. Never mind how traumatic and intense and that your body is literally ripping open. But yeah, ibuprofen should cover it. Do you need a ride to Target? I can help you out. Women are taught to just kind of live with their pain, just kind of ignore it. And so there's lots of cultural conditioning that happens when it comes to our physical pain. And all of this is connected. Physical pain, emotional pain, cultural pain. It's all connected. And part of how I learned how to heal from it is by finally facing my own pain. And so let me back up and get more specific with some of the physical things that I've gone through in hopes that it will help you, in hopes that it will normalize some of the stereotypes around female pain, but also in hopes that it will help everybody feel more encouraged to face their pain. So some of my physical pain began with my lower back, and it actually started when I was about 19 years old with no clear, I'm 37 now, almost 38, right? So this has been going on for a while. It was in my lower back, and I first noticed it when I was on a walk with my college boyfriend. It just kind of hurt all of a sudden. Like my back kind of started popping and aching, and there was no clear cause. And that was just the beginning of a pain cycle of lower back pain that would continue into the present. Now, in order to treat this, like I would on and off see a chiropractor because that's kind of what my family did. And he would help me for a little bit, like he would do some sort of adjustment, but then the pain would just return. I had x-rays done, I've had scans done, and everybody kind of said, oh, it's not real. There's nothing, there's no pain there. I don't know why you're in here right now. I don't see any physical reason for this pain. And so I was kind of told that it was sort of in my head because they couldn't see anything on the x-rays or the MRIs. But like closer to the present, my husband would like massage my back and he would go, yeah, I can feel something here. My husband is also very psychic and very intuitive and very attuned to energy, specifically with pain because he's gone through his own struggles with his back. And so when he would massage me, he could physically feel, he's like, yeah, right here. And sure enough, the areas that he would be pushing on were where they were the most tender. And so I've had 4 biological children. All were birthed vaginally. And when I had those children, I went into what's called latent labor with all 4 of them early, which means I wasn't in active labor. My children weren't in any danger, but I started dilating about a month or 2 early, like a centimeter or 2. So dilation is when the cervix opens so that the baby can come out. When you're at a 10 is when you're actively ready to push that baby out. But with all 4 of my children, for 1 or 2 months, I was walking around with my cervix dilated to a 1 or 2 for a long time. And that's just the baby's head just literally pushing, on my vagina. And so I already had developed these back problems. Certainly I developed pelvic problems when that happened, just when it comes to pain, because, it's an 8 or 9 pound baby putting pressure on a sensitive area. And then, of course, I went through the process of 4 vaginal births. So on the other side of that, well, now I still have this lower back pain that's never really gone away, that I've kind of just ignored and dealt with my whole life because there wasn't a clear solution offered and I just was kind of conditioned to get used to it. But now I've got this occasional pelvic and vaginal pain too, because I'm on the other side of having these back problems, as well as now birthing 4 children. And what happened was my pain got to a place where I couldn't ignore it anymore. And where I kind of sensed that I shouldn't ignore it, because if I did, I would have probably bigger problems, as time went on. But also I didn't want to, as I've kind of gone on this healing journey the last few years, I've started to learn to take care of myself more, to prioritize what was going on in my body and my mind. And so I finally said, you know what? I'm just going to seek out some physical therapy for both my back and my pelvis. And part of the reason I couldn't ignore the pain was, like I said, it was getting worse, but also it started to cause problems with intimacy. It got to the point where sex would be painful sometimes with my husband, and I didn't want that, right? I wanted to be able to be intimate with him, and I needed to seek some healing to make that happen. But it also got to the point where I couldn't ignore it because, as you know, I love to dance, right? I dance a couple times a week. It's intense cardio, hip hop, jazz kind of stuff. And it didn't hurt when I would dance, but I was getting stiff, meaning like I couldn't move my hips in the way that I wanted to because the lower back was tightening up. Like I couldn't move the way I wanted to. And that's what happens for a lot of us, right? We ignore our pain successfully for a while until we can't anymore, until it gets to a point where it's disrupting something that matters to us. And in the case of me, what it was disrupting was my healing journey, right? Because I was learning to prioritize myself more, but it was disrupting intimacy with my husband, and it was interrupting dance. It was disrupting my ability to move in the way that I wanted to. And so that's the case for a lot of us, right? Finally, when something bubbles over, we're like, okay, I'll just deal with this now. So I sought physical therapy, and I cannot speak highly enough about my female physician who was helping me with my back. It's pretty amazing, and I want to encourage just everybody out there, but also especially the women out there. It's amazing how many more female doctors we have nowadays, right? That's one part of progress that's definitely gotten better, is there's so many more female physicians and female-run clinics. And my physical therapist is a woman, and she is just phenomenal. There is something very healing that occurs when one woman is helping another woman heal. And she has been working with me with my back for several months now. And I am slowly, naturally healing the pain. Now, when it comes to the source of it, I've had some time. By actively taking steps to physically heal my pain, more behind what's causing it has come out. And maybe I'll get into that once I kind of explain the pelvic floor part of this. So again, women, there's power that happens when we heal each other. So thank you to all the female physicians that are out there too. Do not underestimate the value of your work. You are creating very powerful waves with what you do, with helping other women heal. And there is a powerful connection that I feel with my physical therapist just because she's taking the time to heal my body. Because here's what's happening. By me going in and saying, yep, my body is worth this healing, that's a step in the right direction spiritually too, because I'm acknowledging to myself, the cosmos, and the culture, my body deserves to be taken care of. Not exploited, not demeaned, and not ignored. My body deserves to be taken care of. So just by taking that step to physically take care of my body, it's a step in the right direction of healing the collective, in addition to my own intimacy with my husband and my own ability to dance. So thank you to the female physicians out there, but also also to the women who've been putting off healing something in their body. Please take the time. If you're financially able to, or even if you're not, there's got to be some sort of resources out there. Take the time to heal your body. You are worth it, and your body is worth it. So let's get back to the pelvic floor part of this, okay? So my physical therapist is helping me with my back, but she goes, Jenna, some of your pelvic pain should be doing a little bit better by now based on what we're kind of doing with your back, because it's all connected. I think it might be a good idea for you to go and see our specific pelvic floor therapist. And again, the pelvic floor is like all the muscles kind of inside the vagina, right? And I agreed. I was like, yep, I still am having some problems, so let me go. So I went to see their specific pelvic floor therapist. Again, I think it's amazing that there are doctors out there specifically dedicated to helping women with their pelvic area. That's amazing. Now, what I did not know is how invasive this exam is. And I'm going to talk about the nitty-gritty of it because I think, number one, it's just a part of the body that we're healing. But also, I think it's important for the world to know what women have to go through sometimes. So this female physician was fantastic. She was very honest and open with me about the exam and what would be involved, and walked me through it, what I would be experiencing, and then was very gentle with me as she did it. So what she needed to do, and this is at the heart of the message of my episode today, was essentially recreate my pain. She said, I need to recreate your pain so that I can understand where these pain points are. And what that meant was that she had to reach up inside my vagina and push at certain levels, different layers of the inside of my vagina, to see where the tender points were and to see how my muscles were functioning. Now, the best part of this too is she had to see how my muscles down there were working. And so as I'm laying with my legs open on this exam table, she's like, okay, now bear down like you're gonna poop. Bear down like you're gonna poop. And I'm like, never before have I been asked to do that with someone else watching. So it's quite the exam. Now, to get really vulnerable with you, I don't know if you've ever been asked to like mimic pooping in front of someone, but guess what went through my mind when she asked me to do that? Holy shit, what if I actually poop? That's what goes through your mind, right? Because that's what those muscles are designed to do. I didn't, just for the record. It was okay. But it was a pretty intense exam, right? And she did everything she could to make it as comfortable as possible and as dignified as possible. But an exam like that is really intense. And it's part of the reason why sometimes people avoid healing is because this is just the perfect time for my son to walk into. I had a feeling if he was going to come back in that it would be during this segment. So anyway, it's the reason a lot of people avoid healing, right? Because in order to really face your pain, you have to face it. Not just one layer of it, but multiple layers of it. Right? She literally had to reach up to multiple pain points inside my vagina to recreate my pain so that she could come up with the correct healing regimen. Right? Because we can't heal our pain, be it emotional or physical, unless we know where the pain points are and what's causing them. This was also the first time, this exam was the first time that I actually saw what the inside of a vagina looks like. Like, I never got to experience that in health class, but she had this like 3D diagram. You know what I'm talking about when you go to the doctor, you know, they have like those silicone body parts. And I actually saw what the inside of a vagina looks like. And it's incredible. The muscles. The inside of the vagina is all muscle, which I think is telling of the strength of women, right? The most intimate, life-giving part of our body is also part of the body with incredible muscle. And so, although this exam was incredibly uncomfortable, it opened some doors for me. I learned through talking with the doctor, but also through her physical exam, what was causing my pain. And some of it is physical, right? When you birth 4 children that way and experience latent labor like I did, it's gonna cause some changes and it's gonna require some attention, right? But as I've been healing this physical part of my body, both my back and my pelvis, I also have gone on this spiritual journey of understanding the spiritual reasons behind my pain. Because the body, the mind, and the spirit are all connected. This is why a lot of Western physicians now are finally like incorporating meditative things into pain management. Although I said there are a lot of doctors that push pills, on the other side of it, we do have a lot of medical doctors who are saying, wait, the mind, the spirit is involved in this too. And meditation is something that is being encouraged also for pain management and pain relief, because it's all connected. And so as I took steps to physically heal my body, some spiritual insights came to me. Some of them came to me in dreams, and some of them came to me just as I was thinking, right? Because when we bring our attention to a problem, solutions also start to appear. And that's where I really need to encourage you, because that's what this episode is about, to face your pain, however awkward it is. Because sometimes it is that. You're legs open on a table with someone looking at the most intimate parts of you. Facing our pain is an incredibly vulnerable thing, often involving some sort of exposure. But I can't encourage you enough to do it, because when we finally have the courage to be vulnerable and to look at it, to feel it, to allow someone to help us, well, then the solutions start coming. Not just from one visit, right? Because the healing process is not like, okay, you go to one therapy session, be it physical or emotional, and you're better. Nope. Healing is a journey. And healing involves exposing the wound, which can hurt. But once you begin to do that, incredible insights come to you. So here's what happened to me once I started to physically heal my back and my pelvic floor. I started having dreams, and as you know, because of my psychic medium abilities, I often have very vivid, active dreams. When I started treating my back and my pelvis, I had dreams that I was pulling bats, like actual bats that were clinging to my vagina and my lower back. I would be pulling them off of me in these dreams. I also had dreams where I would be pulling, and stay with me because it's going to sound weird, but there's a very non-weird, energetic explanation for it. I would also be pulling snakes off and out of my vagina in dreams. I know, it sounds weird, but there's a very clear reason for it. So I would have these occasional dreams where I'm pulling these things off of me. And when you do dream research, which I do, and when I kind of meditated on what it meant, because our dreams always mean something, well, it's related to energy, right? Snakes are the universal symbol of energy. They represent energy. And when I'm pulling these snakes out of my vagina, I'm essentially removing negative energies that have attached themselves to that part of my body. Same thing with the bats, pulling them off of my lower back and vagina. Bats, the symbolism there is vampiric, right? Something that's sucking the energy and life out of you. Energy is a real thing. And over time, and I believe now, and I know now that this was a huge part of what was causing my pain, negative energies were attaching themselves to my body. As I've shared before, I was not sexually harassed and molested once. It was multiple times throughout middle school and multiple times throughout high school. And it was the boys that I went to school with or that I was hanging out with, because my generation was not taught how to say no, and boys were not taught how to ask for permission or to actually, pay attention to how a girl was responding. And there were very obvious signs that I was uncomfortable, but they didn't care. And then some of that, unfortunately, went into adulthood where I was sexually assaulted a few different times. And that leaves a trace. Although I survived all of those things, there's an energetic memory. It leaves bad energy that attaches to my spirit, to my body, and it needed to be removed. It was causing me pain. And so as I started to heal my physical body, right, I started to have these dreams where I was pulling these things off of me. And it's a good sign that I'm pulling them off, because it means, hey, I'm clearing it. I'm getting rid of it. Pain is also a teacher for us. Pain brings our attention to a problem. My mind and my body were trying to help me, actually, with this pain. They were trying to tell me, hey, there's some negative things attached here. And that includes the energetic traces left by the men and boys who did that, but it also included the imprint that it left on my psyche, on my memory. There was some subconscious internalized message about the things that I deserved, which was to be treated that way, that were holding me back and holding me down. And once I took the step to heal myself physically, well, the spiritual part of it could then be healed. The emotional part of it could be healed. The psychological part of it could be healed, because it's all connected, my friends. Don't fall for the myth of the United States culture that we are meant to be compartmentalized beings, that our mind is over here, our body's over there, our spirit is up in the sky. No. It's all connected. And the cause of a lot of pain is often related to the emotional and the spiritual. Right? There's a term for it, psychosomatic pain. It's real pain, but it has to do with the mind. And remember how the doctor said they couldn't find a clear reason for my pain? Well, that didn't mean it wasn't there. It just meant that their tools weren't the right tools for identifying it, because it was spiritual, because it was emotional, and it was manifesting in the physical. But because I took steps to heal, those answers came to me. And I could heal in a holistic way. I could heal in a way where it's like, okay, I'm getting the physical treatment I need from my physical therapist. I'm getting the tools that I need to heal my body. And I'm getting the spiritual insights that I need to heal my body. And it's a journey. And I had to go through some very uncomfortable things to get there, but it is 100% worth it, because guess what? The intimacy with my husband is healing now. I'm not experiencing the physical pain that I was. And I can move. At dance, I now actually can move my hips more flexibly than I ever could before I started the therapy. And there is something very powerful Oh man, I'm getting emotional. Okay. There's something very powerful when I look at myself in the mirror at my dance class and I can see how far my hips can move from side to side, back, front, around. My hips are so flexible now and I love it. And it's powerful because I am controlling it. I am moving my hips where I want to move them and they're going where I want them to go. Watching myself in that mirror, having full control over an area of my body that was used and abused and outside of my control for too many years of my life, has been incredible. I've taken my power back, I've taken my body back, and I have control now. And it is 100% worth it. It is worth making time and energy to get to these appointments. It is worth being asked to bear down like I'm going to poop while someone's staring at my vagina hole and my butthole. It's worth being vulnerable and telling you about these dreams, right? Because just telling you, hey, I had a dream where I was pulling snakes out of my vagina, you might think I'm crazy or it's weird or it's gross, but it's not. It's all energy. But the vulnerability involved in that is worth it. I'm telling you because I want you to heal too. I'm being vulnerable with you because I want you to heal. I want you to experience what I have experienced. I want you to be free from this conditioning to numb your pain, to think that your pain doesn't matter. Because here's kind of the final part of this discussion is that wounds are always shown. Our wounds are going to come out one way or another, even if we try to numb. Now, a lot of my wounds, whether it was getting divorced, whether it was kind of a shitty dating history, losing my house, I had a lot of things that I was ashamed of for a long time. They were open wounds where I felt like a failure. But part of the reason I was so ashamed is because of the meaning assigned to those, right? Judgments that came from other people. Well, you're a failure because you lost your house. You're a failure because you couldn't make your marriage work. You're a failure because you've dated some assholes. You're a failure because you couldn't give your kids this amount of stability during this time. And I was ashamed of those things because those were judgments that were placed on me for that. So for a long time, I numbed myself because I felt like a failure, because I was ashamed of having a crappy dating history or of getting divorced, of losing my house, of getting into financial ruin. So I numbed myself because I felt ashamed, because people had assigned meaning to those experiences. This is the kind of pain that a lot of others numb too. Maybe you're ashamed of something, so you numb it with a distraction. You're ashamed of it because of the meaning that other people have assigned to it, or because of the meaning that maybe you assigned to it, so you numb it. Well, wounds come out, right? By numbing myself to that, I just further plunged myself into self-destruction, and it didn't help. It didn't encourage me to get back on my feet emotionally. It didn't encourage me to have a healthy relationship. But you know what did? Believing that I was worthy of a healthy relationship again. Believing that I was worthy of having material comforts, of supporting my kids the way that I wanted to. What helped was looking at those experiences not as something to be ashamed of, but as teachers. Yeah, I lost my house. My first marriage failed. Because that wasn't the life that I was meant to live. Now, of course, I don't want to put my kids through losing a house, you know what I mean, or another divorce or anything like that. But because I went through that, I was able to discover the freedom of who I actually am and what I actually want and become the healthiest version of myself and to set an example for my kids. When I stopped looking at those painful moments based on the meaning that other people assigned to it, I could see it for what it was. A learning opportunity. My mind and body rejecting a life that I was told I should want, but wasn't actually for me. Because the reasons that I stepped into my first marriage and bought the house that I did were because of others' expectations. Were because that's the life that I thought that I should have. Yeah, I dated some losers, but it's because I kind of felt like I had no choice. I was so full of numbness and shame and all of that that I didn't think I deserved better. So I accepted poor treatment because I didn't think I deserved any more because I had failed at all these other things. Well, when I stopped numbing myself to that and just feeling ashamed of it and looked at it as a teacher, I started to love myself in all phases of life more holistically. My friends, when it comes to your pain, I'm encouraging you today to look at it for yourself. Take some quiet minutes to just be real about it. And perhaps consider that the meaning that others have assigned to this pain that you're avoiding maybe isn't the accurate truth. There might be a deeper truth to your pain, and it can teach you something. And when I say that wounds have a way of coming out, something that I've observed, right? In some people that I know who are avoiding their pain, it shows. Even people who are living on the surface, this like happy materialistic American life, right? Where they've got all the things. They've got the seemingly stable marriage. They've got the seemingly stable house. Well, maybe, but but they're busy all the time. Meaning like you can't have a real conversation with them because they get distracted by grabbing the next thing, or you can't get any sort of depth out of them because there is no depth. It's just kind of hollow. You know, maybe there's somebody who you know is actively avoiding their feelings, and it shows because they mask it by puffing up their chest and one-upping you all the time. That's a wound. People who feel the need to one-up people are wounded. They're not very confident in who they are. Wounds always become public, no matter what they are. It's just that maybe your wounds have been assigned a certain meaning. Maybe other people have told that you should be ashamed of it, so you avoid it. That's certainly the case with female pain, right? Somehow, despite the vagina being as desirable as it is, it's also like this taboo subject, right? That gets mocked or makes people uncomfortable or whatever it is. That in itself needs to change, right? Vaginas, the whole pelvic area are the life-giving force of this world. Why is it so uncomfortable to just talk about a part of the body, you know? My listeners, I'm so grateful for you, and you are worthy of healing your pain. And I cannot speak enough about how worth it healing my own pain was. And it hurts. You know, in order to get to the other side of an issue, be it physical or emotional, you have to feel it again. It comes out in unpleasant ways again. And you might find that when it comes to love too. Certainly when I fell in love with my husband, a lot of my pain points came out because the numbness dropped. When I met Tom, I was in something real. I didn't want to fake it. I couldn't fake it. I couldn't play the dating game, right? Where you can put on whatever face you want for a little while and go have fun. It's like, oh no, this is real. I want this to be real. I want to really be connected to him. But that meant that for both of us, our masks fell off. Some subconscious pains that we had when it came to love and connection came out. Things we had buried came out. And we had to work through them. And it hurt to work through them. It got uncomfortable to work through them. But man, did I get some insights about who I am, about my life, about what I wanted. Just like when I had to face the intensity of healing my pelvis and my back, I had to face the things that were causing that pain. But now, I love myself. I love my body. I can look in the mirror and I can watch my hips move in the direction that I want to move them. I can take control over the kind of energy that's in my body. I can pull it off. I can invite it in if it's good energy. When it comes to love, because both my husband and I have faced our pain points, we experience the magic of real connection. We endured some of those awkward moments, those painful moments of revisiting past relationships. that shaped who we were so that we could have a powerful connection together. So today, on this day of clarity, right, with our Mercury Cazimi, I want to encourage all of you to face your pain point, to allow yourself, to give yourself the freedom of engaging with your pain, to stop numbing, to be willing to endure the uncomfortable in order to experience the freedom of who you are. I love you. I am so grateful for you. Happy Mercury Cazimi Day, and thanks for coming.